very warm welcome officially to all of you, and thank you for joining us from whichever part of the world and whatever time of day. My name is Anna Brady. I'm the Assistant Director of Recruitment and Admissions here at the Faculty of Law at the newly named Henry and R. Jackman Faculty of Law, which we are so proud to introduce. And today's presentation is also marking the launch of our 2026 admission cycle. So welcome to those of you who are here to learn about the Global Professional Master of Laws. And it's also with my great pleasure that I introduce my colleague who's co-hosting with me today, Bianca Lee, our Coordinator of Recruitment and Admissions.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Anna.
Bianca, over to you with our land acknowledgement.
Yeah. So I wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting takes place and still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. We are now moving on to the agenda of our information session. So we will start by introducing you to the Faculty of Law of the University of Toronto, which has been, as Anna mentioned, recently renamed to the Henry and R. Jackman Faculty of Law. We have a very diverse audience joining us today. Some of you might be internationally trained lawyers, some of you might be completely new to law. So we will discuss the aspects of pursuing a legal education as a non-lawyer and how the GPLM program can help you become more versed in legal matters, help you advance your professional expertise, accelerating your career growth. We will also talk about the GPLM program for those who are internationally trained lawyers looking to become licensed to practice law in Canada. Then we will give you an in-depth overview of the GPLM program and all three concentrations offered. We will discuss the academic aspects, the program structure, what the class schedule looks like, finances, and go through the faculties and teaching methodology and assessments. We will then move on to the admission requirements. We will talk about the application process, the deadlines, and everything that's related to submitting an application. If you're interested in applying for the upcoming 2026-27 academic year, please just check whenever that section comes along. And to finish it off, we will wrap it up everything with questions. So if you have any questions or concerns throughout the presentation, please write them down. We will have a designated time for us to answer your questions at the end. And now I will leave it to my colleague, Anna, to walk you through legal education at Jackman.
Thank you so much, Bianca. Thank you for the introduction. And once again, welcome everyone. So let's talk a little bit about what is the significance of legal education in principle and how it is different at the University of Toronto Faculty of Law. So last year, the University of Toronto celebrated our 75th anniversary of the modern Faculty of Law as we know it, and the founding vision of this academic legal education, which was really a very strong deviation from the profession-led apprenticeship model that existed in Ontario and elsewhere in Canada up until 1949. So the University of Toronto was actually the academic institution that essentially fundamentally transformed the way legal profession was studied and took it from the levels of this, practical apprenticeship to deep academic inquiry and research that it is today. And just this month, as we've already announced, the University of Toronto Faculty of Law announced a transformational alumni donor gift in the amount of $80 million that will truly ignite the new era of the faculty's strategic focus in the areas of academic excellence, research innovation, exceptional co-curricular programming that we're building for our students, and of course the numerous student supports, both in undergraduate and graduate scholarships and other co-curricular activities and programming. So the faculty is now named after its benefactor, the Henry Jackman Faculty of Law, and we are a leading law school in Canada. This is a privilege we've enjoyed for many years. What we also are is one of actually the only law school in Canada that's ranked among the top 10 law schools in North America. So we are being ranked consistently alongside law schools like Harvard and Yale and Stanford. So it's really, truly a great honor and benefit. And we are ranked at top 20 globally, according to Times and Shanghai and QS rankings. But what really makes the legal education at the Jackman Law so unique is that our program is supported by two foundational pillars. We call it the substance of the law and the methodology of the law. So the substance of the law provides students with deep understanding of the legal matter, laws and regulations that govern our society, govern our economy, the legal terminology, the various legal concepts and frameworks, the theoretical aspect. And the latter helps students to develop this unparalleled lens of legal analyses. So the analytical and critical thinking that helps you apply those legal concepts that you're studying on the theoretical side to the everyday practical application to prompt deeper inquiry and better judgment in whatever situations you're facing. So the Faculty of Law is really a fantastic place, in my opinion, to be both from the academic standpoint, but also in terms of supports and services and opportunities that are available to our students, and the opportunities to engage with community, both within the Faculty of Law, but also in the broader University of Toronto community. So that's a little bit about the Jackman Law. And now moving on to what some of you may be by now asking yourselves, if your undergraduate degree is not in law and you've completed it in a different discipline, and if for those of you who may have no interest in practicing legal profession in the way it is meant to be traditionally practiced, you likely are wondering, why should I study a law if I'm not a lawyer and I don't intend to practice in the field? But the answer really is quite simple, because law is the underlying essence of everything we do as professionals. Law is present in every boardroom, every business deal, and in every industry. There isn't really an industry that isn't touched by law. And it doesn't only regulate or instill stability, but it also drives change and shapes our economy and our society. And really, what we're witnessing and have been witnessing in the past, at the turn of the 21st century, is these three fundamental shifts that have occurred that are greatly increasing the need in better legal fluency among professionals of every job function and every sector. So regardless of whether you are planning on becoming a lawyer or you currently are a lawyer trained elsewhere in the world, or you are a non-legally trained professional working in a different industry, the study of law has something to offer to everyone. So as we're seeing that there are these three shifts, as I mentioned, the first one is globalization and market convergence. And what it has brought is complexity of the evolving regulatory landscapes that now require leaders to spend more time on legal demands and compliance matters as they relate to things like changing workforce demands, corporate governance, environmental regulations, and myriad of other things. So really, leaders are expected to grapple with these issues both within their jurisdiction, but also if your business operates with on a global level with international suppliers, stakeholders, clients, you are also expected to be able to understand and be versed in these matters, not just from your jurisdiction standpoint, but also from other jurisdictions in which your business operates. The second shift is rapid changes in technology. We've seen greater use of machine learning, artificial intelligence across every industry. And what that has given is the rise to legal considerations surrounding the ethical use of things like generative AI, the large language models, data privacy, cybersecurity, how we use data, how we store customer data, what obligations we have for, intellectual property rights, and content that's been generated not entirely by us, but with the help of Gen AI. So managers are not only expected to understand these issues from the technical standpoint in order to make sure their organizations remain competitive in the industry in which they operate, but also they're required to lead their teams through all of these regulatory undercurrents that are shaping how technological advancements are being applied and used by their organizations. And so often they find themselves operating at frontiers and really relying on others in their network who may have the legal training, the legal knowledge, but really finding that they have this gap in the knowledge themselves. And last but not least is the third change that occurred is this fundamental change in the overall leadership landscape. What we're seeing now is that organizations now look for and regard a strong leadership toolkit, not only just as a combination of strong technical knowledge and business skills, but also sound legal fluency and analytical and decision-making skills that kind of tie it all together to make a versatile, sustainable, and visionary leader who is able to advocate for growth, but also shield the organization in the time of uncertainty and unprecedented change. So those are the shifts that are shaping our society and how business is done, not just in Canada, but globally. And these are the three main reasons why, if you are a non-lawyer thinking about studying law, why you should be looking at our program, because our program touches upon these and many, many other concepts. Now, jumping into what the GPLLM is and talking specifically about the program, the history of the foundation of the GPLLM, and the concentrations that we offer. So the GPLM program was developed in 2011. So in many respects, we are a newer, although not entirely brand new, professional master's degree offered by the University of Toronto. The reason why I say newer is because if you compare us to more established, more well-known professional graduate degree like the MBA, we are certainly a baby in terms of age. But GPLLM has been around for almost 15 years. In fact, next year we're celebrating our 15th anniversary of existence. And we were Canada's first professional master's degree in law that began its offering to both lawyers and non-lawyers. Before GPLLM's existence, the graduate study of law at the graduate level, that is, was not available to those individuals who did not study law at the undergraduate level. So it made it very much impossible for anyone who trained in arts and science or STEM or business to study law at the graduate level. But the academic leadership of the Faculty of Law at that time and till today's day, in speaking to many professionals from a variety of industries, has recognized that the study of law is important and that there was this gap and need of professionals from diverse industries to become better versed in legal concepts, not just from the theoretical standpoint, but also in the application of those concepts to the work that they do. So we've heard this over the years, well before my time at the Faculty of Law, well before Bianca's time, that there was the need and the demand for professionals to have a better understanding of the law, to be able to speak the language of law with others, to liaise with their legal teams better, and to be that bridge between, let's say, operations and regulatory matters. And so as such, the GPLM program was created because really we do believe that the study of law is foundational to every business leader, every manager, and everyone needs to be versed in that. So we are a professional master's degree, as I already mentioned, and we offer 3 distinct concentrations as the program stands right now: Canadian law in a global context, business law, and innovation law and technology. And collectively, these 3 concentrations are designed to address 2 main gaps in the Canadian legal education market. One, and specifically the Canadian law in the global context concentration, is a concentration that provides a bridge for internationally trained lawyers to streamline their entry to practice law in Ontario and elsewhere in common law Canada. So we'll talk in more detail about the curriculum of the Canadian law concentration and the other two as well. But you will notice from later slides that the curriculum of the Canadian law concentration is curated against the National Committee on Accreditation's requirements, allowing internationally trained lawyers and internationally trained law graduates who have already an undergraduate degree in law, but from a different part of the world, to meet their bridging requirements as set out by the National Committee on Accreditation. The other two concentrations, business law and innovation law and technology, address the need for executive legal education. So this is where we see individuals who are mainly non-lawyers. In fact, most of the cohort, and by most I mean close to 90% of the cohort, don't have an undergraduate degree in law. They come from diverse disciplines, but they are united in the fact that they currently grapple with issues that reside at the intersection of law and business, law and technology. And so they want to be better versed in legal concepts, not necessarily to become lawyers, but to be able to meaningfully and diligently drive their organizations forward. Oops, sorry. Just making sure that I've not missed anything on this slide. Two important remarks I will make. On the Canadian law concentration, as I mentioned, the concentration is set out to help you meet the NCA required courses, therefore substituting the need to take the NCA challenge exams, although it does not substitute the need to write the bar examination that those of you who are planning on becoming practicing lawyers will need to do with the law society of the province of your choice. And for individuals who may be considering business law or innovation law and technology concentrations, the note that I will make is that on its own, the GPLLM in any concentration rather, not just in business law and ILT, is not what we call a qualifying law degree. A qualifying law degree is a degree that would allow you to be admitted to the bar of the jurisdiction in which you've completed the degree. The GPLLM is a master's degree, and a qualifying degree has to be an undergraduate law degree. So on its own, the GPLLM is not an entry to practice degree. And I know that that's also one of the common questions that typically gets asked, whether by completing the GPLLM alone, as a non-lawyer, you might be eligible to sit for the bar exam. The answer to that is unfortunately no. So if you are interested in becoming a lawyer as your second career or as an addition to your current profession, please know that an undergraduate law degree such as a JD or an LLB, Juris Doctor or Bachelor of Laws is required. So what does the program offer? So we talked about the three different concentrations, briefly the curriculum, and these are just some of the key takeaway that our students get. First and foremost, we offer rigorous academic instruction at Canada's top law school. It is evident not only in the content that we cover in our class, in each class, but also in how our faculty members teach. So you will, of course, learn legal theory and frameworks for legal analyses, but you'll also learn to apply these concepts in practice. So whether you are a student in Canadian law who wishes to become a practicing lawyer, or you are a business law student leading an organization through a regulatory change, you will emerge with a skill set that's underpinned both by legal theory and application of law in practice that weaves in that academic inquiry and the practical application for your everyday business and professional life. You will be exposed to numerous areas of law, including contract law, cybersecurity, employment law, intellectual property law, mergers and acquisitions, for students in the Canadian law concentration, constitutional law, criminal law, and many, many others, all through that lens of legal, theoretical, and backed by practical application. Over the course of the program, you will have opportunity to learn from some of the world's top legal minds who are at the very forefront of shaping the law in their respective fields. Many of them are our full-time faculty here at the Faculty of Law. Others are visitors, visiting scholars, visiting faculty, or just industry and guest speakers or guest lecturers. But it's truly a unique opportunity to connect with these individuals and to learn from them in the classroom, and those individuals who essentially have their finger on the pulse of how law shapes and transforms our society. When it comes to the degree itself, and I know we'll cover it in the scheduled slides that Bianca will talk about, but all I will mention here is that the GPLLM program is considered a working professionals graduate degree program, which allows students to work full-time and maintain their career momentum while earning a graduate degree. The classes are scheduled in a way that preserves your working week with only minimal disruption occasionally, to allow you to still earn income, maintain your career momentum while also earning a Master of Laws. Of course, the exceptional network of peers with whom you are studying. Again, further in our slideshow, we will talk about the class composition and the different profiles, class profiles for both our Canadian law concentration students and our business law and innovation law and technology students. But this is just to say whether you are a Canadian law or business law or an ILT, as we call the third concentration in short, you will have opportunities to build relationships and network with some of the highly accomplished and truly outstanding individuals who are very, very diverse in many ways in the disciplines which they've studied at their undergraduate level, in industries they represent, in job functions they perform, but united in their thinking that legal fluency is not only a nice-to-have skill anymore, but it's rather an imperative competency in today's leaders' arsenal of skills to be able to navigate diligently in many changing, as the tectonic plates of our world are shifting. And so it's truly inspiring in many cases to witness these relationships form, both professional but also friendships that last beyond classroom and beyond the program's reach. And last, I would be remiss if I didn't mention our personalized career support services. We have a dedicated graduate career advisor who works with our GPLLM and our LLM students. And depending on the concentration you're in, if you're in the Canadian law concentration, their work with you would be primarily surrounding helping you navigate the licensing process, the NCA, the articling recruit, and the summer recruit process, as well as, traditional coaching conversations and supports around various pieces of collateral, such as your resume, your cover letter, your social media presence. But for our seasoned professionals in the business law and innovation law and technology, our advisor is always happy to have conversations specifically surrounding kind of how to leverage your legal skill set and knowledge that you're gaining in the GPLLM program and to apply it in the industry in which you work, or how to leverage it to make a pivot in your career if that's what you're seeking. And with that, I see that there are a few questions in the chat. Let me just double check. So someone's asking, prior law graduate asking, even after doing the GPLLM in Canadian common law, will you still need to apply to NCA for the certificate of qualification? That is correct. Yes. Oh, and I see, Bianca, you've responded. Thank you. So essentially, the process of how the GPLLM program fits into the puzzle of becoming a lawyer with a law degree from outside of Canada. If your law degree is already conferred, you can begin by applying to the NCA for an assessment report. An assessment report, once received, is valid for 5 years and provides you with the list of courses and competencies that you will need to meet in which NCA determined that you don't have enough proficiency based on your prior legal education. This is where the GPLLM program comes into play. And the Canadian law concentration specifically, you will complete the courses within the Canadian law concentration that are mapped against the NCA requirements. So you will follow your NCA assessment report, and with the help of our program coordinators who support you whilst you're in the program, you will make sure that you're enrolling in those courses that are required by the NCA. Once you've completed those courses, for some students, this may occur before they've even graduated from the GPLLM, because the entire program has 10 courses, as you see on the slide, but you may only have 6 NCA required courses. What you will receive is a letter from the program that we send actually directly to the NCA. Once the NCA has performed its final check and assessment, and verified that you have indeed completed all of those requirements that they've outlined in the assessment report, they will issue you a certificate of qualification, which basically means that your law degree from elsewhere in the world, in conjunction with the coursework completed in the GPLLM program, collectively is equivalent to a qualifying law degree, that of a Juris Doctor graduate here in Canada, which then enables you to seek admission to the law society of your choice. Many of our students choose to license in Ontario, but several choose to license elsewhere. And they will, and then you will still need to complete the steps required by the law society, which most commonly involves the bar exam, the experiential components such as articling or law practice program, and the qualifying law degree, you would have met that requirement. So hopefully that helps. There are 2 open questions. Does NCA require one to also be a member of the Bar Law Society of the common law country they got their LLB degree from? That's a great question. So no, you don't have to be called to the bar in any other jurisdiction. NCA will definitely take that into consideration if you are called. They are ultimately the sole body that's responsible for determining what requirements you will need. But no, you don't have to be called to the bar to get an assessment report. You could just be a law graduate with an LLB, with a qualifying law degree. What they do look at is whether your law degree anywhere else in the world is considered a qualifying law degree, such that it would make you eligible to seek admission to the bar or the law society in the country in which you received that degree. Sherry Ann is asking, if I already have an MBA, but I'm looking to enhance my skills with the GPLLM, are there credits offered against the GPLLM program? If you mean whether we could transfer the MBA credits into the GPLLM program, the answer is no. And there are many reasons why the answer is no. First and foremost, you do have to complete 10 courses from the University of Toronto in order to graduate with the GPLM degree. That's the course requirement. The way our program is taught is quite unique, and the course content is quite unique. So it would be highly unlikely that a course from an MBA would go in depth such that it would cover and be a very close match to any of our courses, because remember, we are a faculty of law, so we teach students the law, right? MBA is a business is offered by business schools. They teach business approach. And yes, that is a short answer. I do have a long answer, but happy to chat about that if you want to send us an email, Sherry. There are a couple of questions as far as the application. We will get to the application section, and a couple on the financial aid. We will get to that as well. I think we are it's over to you, Bianca, for the program structure.
Yes, thank you, Anna. And just wanting to highlight that we will go over the application process and the documents required and all the everything related to the application towards the end of the presentation, so we can definitely help answering those questions later on. But for now, let's talk about the program structure and the format. For the GPLN program duration, we are looking at 1 year of academic year. So it consists of 3 consecutive terms for the fall, winter, and summer terms. It's offered every year, once a year only in September. So it starts every year in the fall term. And the program delivery method is in person. We offer flexible class schedule to accommodate working professionals, and this allows students to continue working full-time while also pursuing illegal graduate education. The regular classes, they take place on weekends. So regular classes will be on Friday evenings from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturdays full day from 8:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. on a bi-weekly basis. So this means we have class weekends on alternating weeks, and there are 6 classes per term. There's also what we call the intensive courses, which will be 2 back-to-back weekends that can either be taken in December or April. You have your preference whenever you're choosing the courses, but we will give you a sample of what the schedule looks like throughout the entire year. For the degree requirements, the program requires a completion of 10 courses for graduation, and there are no thesis required. This is not a research-based graduate program. However, as Anna was mentioning previously, the GPLN program is a very rigorous academic program. So it does require commitment on and off class hours, and we estimate an approximate of 10 to 15 hours of self-paced study per week during the duration of the entire program. If we move on to the next slide, I can show you an example of what each one of the terms of the GPLN program looks like. I believe it definitely gives a better idea. So as I mentioned, there will be 6 classes per term. So that means 6 different weekends on alternating weeks. If you see the highlighted yellow dates, those are the classes dates that we are having for the current term of the fall 2025. And we have classes on the weekend of the 19th. So again, Friday evenings from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. and then Saturday's full day from 8:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. We do have 3 classes in the month of October. As I've mentioned, it's usually on alternating weeks. However, because of the Halloween weekend, the program team decided to move one of the classes to the following week of the 17th. But when you go on to November, you do have those classes also on alternating weeks. As I've mentioned, you do have the option to take intensive courses either in December or in April. So if you decide to take your intensive course in December, it will be 2 back-to-back weekends, the first weekend being Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then the second weekend being Friday and Saturday only. If you don't decide to take the December intensive, then you have to take the April intensive during the winter term. So this is what the winter term looks like. We do have another 6 weekend classes on alternating weeks. So it goes from the month of January to April. If you are not taking the December intensive, then you most likely will be taking the April intensive, which again will be 2 back-to-back weekends. And classes will be on this schedule for the winter term. And to give you a sample of what the summer term will look, classes, they usually run from the summer term to May to July. However, depending on the calendar and the specific year, this year for the fall in 2026, the summer term will be running from May to June. So we do have 6 classes in total. It will be 3 weekend classes for the month of May and then 3 weekend classes for the month of June. And when we say that regular classes take place on Fridays from 4 to 9, just keep in mind there's a dinner break between 6 to 7. And then also there's a lunch break on Saturday. Since you're starting classes on 8:30, there's a lunch break at noon before you start your classes again until 6:30 p.m. Okay, and now I'll pass it back to Anna to go over the class schedule for each one of our the class profile for each one of our concentrations.
Sorry, I muted myself as I was typing answers to the questions in the chat and I lost the unmute button. Okay, so this is a snapshot of the class profile for our business law and innovation law and technology class. The reason why we report this class together, these two concentrations together, is because we often see that a lot of students are taking courses from both concentrations. Bianca will cover our course list in the coming slide, and you will see there that there will be opportunities for students to take courses from more than one concentration. Essentially, in the total of 10 courses, you are required to take one course in your concentration in which you've been admitted that is a required course. So for instance, in Canadian law, it's Foundations of Canadian Law. In business law, it's Law and Business in the Global Economy. In innovation law and technology, it's Introduction to Innovation to Law and Technology. That course solidifies that concentration of your choice. In addition to that course, you will need to take any 4 other courses from that same concentration, making a total of 5 out of 10, or 50% of the entire program's coursework in your primary concentration. The other 50% of your coursework can be taken in any concentration if you have no restriction. And so this is where we find that a lot of students admitted to business law and innovation law and technology concentrations because they share the profile very similarly in terms of their average years of experience, job seniority, industries they represent, and the fact that majority of them are new to law, that there's a lot of overlap. And so you will see that typically every year we have between 50 and 55 students in business law and innovation law and technology concentration. I think this year we're closer to 60. So we are growing every year bit by bit. And it's a pretty even split between how many students are pursuing business law versus how many innovation law and technology. So this is a snapshot actually of the class that is graduating. They've completed their coursework this past July, and their convocation is scheduled for next month. So this is the exiting class profile. And most of them are pursuing the program on a full-time 1-year basis. Most of them are domestic students with just under 10% international students. Most have, in addition to their undergraduate degree, another degree, such as a graduate master's degree, or in some cases, PhD. And in terms of industry, you can see it's a very diverse representation. They work in banking and finance, in healthcare and pharma, in government and public services sector, in energy, oil and gas and utility corporations, in management consulting and construction and infrastructure and transit, in manufacturing and distribution, in information technology and telecommunications, and different job seniority levels from most senior executives, C-suite, CEO level, to VP, AVP, managing partner, director, manager, team lead, and many others. On average, our business law and innovation law and technology cohort has 16 years of experience. This does not mean that you have to have that many years of professional experience to be eligible to apply to the program. The minimum number of years of experience required to apply to business law or ILT is 5, but typically we're seeing students with 10 years, the range is just under 10 years, and in some cases over 30 years of professional experience, much of which is in leadership roles. And this is a snapshot of our Canadian law cohort. Now, last year's class was truly a large class. So normally we're never this large. We are usually closer to 90 to 100 students. Last year was really an anomaly. And as you can see, unlike the previous class profile snapshot, these individuals tend to be more early to mid-career, on average having 6 years of professional work experience. Most of them hold a law degree, so over 80, almost 90% of them hold a qualifying undergraduate law degree and are pursuing the program with a view to become licensed as a lawyer. Most of them are doing it in the full-time 1-year tradition. Most are domestic students and a slightly higher percentage of international students, and most are pursuing their first graduate degree. In terms of industries, there's also quite a spread, although over 50% of them are employed in the legal sector, in more traditional roles and that are customary to legal profession. That is all on the class profile. And now over to you, Bianca, again for course list.
Okay, thank you, Anna. So now going over a little bit of the course lists offered for the courses offered for each one of the concentrations. As we talked before, the Canadian Law in a Global Context concentration was designed to help students meet the requirements set out by the National Committee on Accreditation. So the courses, they are curated against those requirements, and we offer them to help, again, students and NCA candidates to meet the NCA requirements. We offer all of the 5 mandatory courses as well as applied legal research and writing. So if you do have your NCA assessment ready, you will most likely be required to take those courses. There are other assessments where we see students that are required to take additional courses as well. So we do offer a big variety of courses from which students can choose from in order to complete the total degree requirement of 10 courses. For the business law, innovation law, and technology concentrations, we offer a variety of courses with plenty of opportunity to be exposed to different areas of the law and to understand the legal frameworks and obligations within these areas. We allow business law, innovation law, technology students the flexibility to take courses from other concentrations as well. So you do get the ability to choose from within or outside your own concentration. However, if you wish to take courses out of the Canadian law concentration, just keep in mind that priority will be given for NCA candidates. But if you happen to be a business law student interested in an innovation law and technology course, you could take that, and vice versa as well. Being an innovation law and technology student interested in taking any course out of the business law concentration, you could do that as well. The only requirement is that you maintain a minimum 50% of your own concentration courses. So if you wish to take 5 courses out of your own concentration, then 5, do a little bit of mix and match from other concentrations, you can definitely do that. It's completely up to you. For Canadian law students who are interested in taking courses out of the other 2 concentrations, that is only allowed if the applicant's work experience is in alignment with the average work experience out of our business law, innovation law, technology class profile. So if you are a Canadian law applicant and you are interested in applying and taking courses out of the other concentrations, we will let you know if you're allowed to do so. But just keep in mind that these are the courses offered in the current year. So our students who are enrolled in any of those concentrations, these are the courses that they will be taking for the current academic year. And yes, thank you, Anna.
Sorry, did I jump ahead too soon?
No, sorry, it's all good.
Yeah. Before I cover our faculty and teaching methodology slide, there was a question that came from Heidi, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, whether a law degree is required. And I understand the confusion because this is an information session about the entire GPLLM program, and we do have two very distinct populations of students who apply and are admitted to the GPLLM program. So let me maybe spend 2 seconds clarifying it, and then we'll move ahead. So on one hand, we see, as I mentioned in the class profiles, a group, we call them aspiring lawyers, who have already earned an undergraduate law degree, but they've earned it outside of Canada. This group may be Canadians who have gone abroad to study law, US, UK, Australia, or anywhere else in the world, or this could be individuals who have already been practicing lawyers in other parts of the world who have now become naturalized Canadians, and for that reason are seeking to bring their expertise and profession over because they're making Canada their new home. So we're seeing individuals with an undergraduate law degree who want to become practicing lawyers in Canada, whether they are new graduates returning back to Canada with a law degree from elsewhere, or they are more experienced professionals bringing their legal credential over. They need to undergo the same process, and that's a process of internationally trained lawyers pathway through the National Committee on Accreditation. We will host a session specifically on the Canadian law concentration later in the year, and hopefully will help address most of the questions associated with the NCA process, the licensing pathway, and specific courses within the Canadian law concentration. The other two concentrations, business law and innovation law and technology, bring to us a very different group of individuals, and therefore we collectively regard them as our executive LLM or executive master of laws stream, because these individuals are highly experienced. As you've seen from the class profile, they bring on average 15 to 16 years of work experience. They work in managerial capacities. Those individuals do not hold a law degree. They hold a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Commerce, Bachelor of Engineering, many other. Some of them may hold a Bachelor of Law or a Juris Doctor degree, and they're coming back, but for a very different reason. They're not looking to license as a lawyer. They don't have the undergraduate law degree. Most of them don't. They want to be better versed in the legal, the substance of the law that gives them the theoretical concepts of the study of the law and the methodology of the law, the analytical toolkit, so that they could apply this in their work for the organizations for which they work, in dealing with lawyers and other legal elements of their profession. So I hope that helps clarify this, Heidi, for you and for others who may have been asking the same question. So let's talk a little bit about our faculty. So I briefly touched on the slide earlier about our faculty being some of the world's top legal minds, and it truly is the case. In the GPLLM program, we have our full-time faculty teaching, including our former dean of the law school, associate dean, and a number of professors at law. We also often invite adjunct faculty who are partners and industry group leaders from leading law firms, organizations, and legislative bodies. We have members of the bar, members of the bench coming in as our adjunct faculty. We also are fortunate to host many visiting faculty from other leading law schools around the world who often offer seminars and teaching and teach in the program as well, and industry experts with whom we engage frequently as guest speakers in our classes. So that's a little snapshot of who we have as faculty members. As far as teaching methodology goes, regardless of whether you are in the Canadian law concentration or in business law, and innovation law concentration, you will find that our classes take on the form of formal lectures that are done in person. And of course, during those lectures, as I mentioned already, we study legal theory, we study different areas of the law, but we also study case law and we apply the theoretical concepts to practical applications. We expect students to be active participants in the class, and this is often done through various group discussions, debates, and engagements. Sometimes students are required to break out in groups and do presentations. And our assessments in the program contain written assignments as well as exams. In the Canadian law concentration, most assessments, and maybe that's actually my cue to move on to the next slide. Yes, so as I mentioned, the assessments in the Canadian law concentrations, most of them culminate in a final 3-hour in-class exam. So you will find that the entire grade for a Canadian law, typical Canadian law course, is split between a midterm and a final. The final usually being worth at least 60% of the total grade, and midterm slightly less. Those exams are in-person sit-down exams. They are done on a computer, but with the help of exam technology. But those students who would prefer to opt out of writing them on a computer could opt for a traditional way to write the exam. For business law and innovation law and technology courses, most assessments include individual papers of varying length. So for any given course, it could mean, writing an introductory paper of a few pages, maybe 3 to 5, then midway through the class, a slightly longer paper of maybe 10, 12 pages, and then a final paper being progressively longer and weighing heavier towards the final grade. Some business law and innovation law and technology courses may have an exam. Assessments, the choice of assessments depends on the faculty member. And also to let you know that the graduate grading scale of the University of Toronto applies to the GPLLM program, which requires students to earn at least a grade of B- or 70% out of 100 in order to pass the course. I'm not seeing any open questions aside from one, which I will address in the chat now. And so it's over to you with the admissions and application process, Bianca.
Thank you, Anna. Okay, so now it's time for us to briefly discuss the admissions and the application process. I know we had a lot of questions in our chat regarding that. Just to give you a general overview of the general admission requirements, we do require each applicant to hold a bachelor's degree. It could be in any discipline. It doesn't need to necessarily be from a law degree. And in terms of the academic requirement, we do ask applicants to hold a minimum GPA that is equivalent to mid-B in their final year. So I know a lot of students are interested in applying for the GPLM program. If you do have a law degree, that is a requirement set by the licensing purposes only. It's not from the admissions office. And if you're looking to apply for any the other concentrations Anna mentioned, it doesn't need to be a law degree. You do need to have an undergraduate degree from any other discipline. In terms of supporting documents that you need to provide whenever you start gathering your documents for application purposes, we do need to see a copy of your academic transcripts for every post-secondary institution you have attended. Even if it's not a degree conferred, we still need to see a copy of your transcript. For admission purposes, when we're going through the application process, you could provide us with the unofficial copy of your transcripts. We do not need the official at this point. If later down you are admitting to the program, you have accepted your offer, then we will ask you for the official version of each one of your transcripts. But don't worry about requesting the official now because it's a little time consuming, involves a lot of planning and financial planning as well. So again, you just need to provide us with the unofficial copy. You also need to provide the admissions committee with 2 letters of recommendation. It's completely up to you of whom you wish to appoint as your referee. We do have further instructions on our website. If you wish to see guidelines that you can share with your referee so they can draft the recommendation letters for you. We also need to see your resume, your CV, where you're stating all of your academic history, your professional background, and we can have a better idea of what you've been doing up to now. Another document will be the personal statement, where you are explaining why you're applying to the GPM program, and you are, going over why you wish, to be accepted to this program and what you could take out of the GPM program, but also what you could bring into the classroom. The last document is not applicable to everyone. However, we do ask students that might need to provide us with an English language proficiency test. We do have a few exemptions on our website, so please check that on our admissions page to ensure that this requirement is or not applicable to you. And in terms of the application process, we are now accepting applications for the fall of 2026 academic year. We already opened the applications, and if you wish to apply, you could create an account through the School of Graduate Studies application system, create an account, fill the application form, submit it, proceed with your application fee payment of $130, and submit all the documents that are required so the admissions committee could start reviewing your application.
Thank you, Bianca. There's one question that I'd like to address live because I think that may be pertinent to many of our applicants. How do we submit recommendation letters, and what happens if my recommender does not speak English? Do they provide a letter in what language, and sort of how do they navigate the process? So on the subject of submission of the letter itself, the application portal through which you will be applying will send out to your recommender. You will be required to nominate a recommender in the application form, provide their contact information, and the system will send them a link, a secure link through which they could upload a letter of recommendation that will be attached directly to your application. I mean, the challenge of course, language barrier, maybe there's someone who could help them navigate that process. The other option is they could always mail the hard copy of the letter to us, which we understand, especially if it's coming from overseas, maybe a much longer and more tedious process, but that always remains an option. As far as the language in which they produce the letter, they could provide a letter in the original language, in the language that they're comfortable in writing the letter. But if it's not in English or French, which are the two official languages of Canada, it will need to be translated by a certified translator, and the translation will need to be by an authorized translator, and this translation will need to be certified as a true translation of the original. And then the original and the translated copy will have to be uploaded if submitting the letter through the application portal, or mailed to us if you're choosing to mail the hard copy. So I hope that helps answer your question, Barbara, and anyone else who may have had the same question. There's another question here. Someone who holds a law degree from civil law jurisdiction where the program was instructed in Spanish, but I'm also licensed to practice in the US and have passed the bar exam in English. Would I still be required to complete the English language proficiency requirement? That's a great question. Typically, the admission policy of the Faculty of Law, not just the Faculty of Law, but the School of Graduate Studies at the University of Toronto, is such that if your undergraduate degree was not instructed in English, you have to provide a proof of English language proficiency. You may, however, choose to submit a request for the Faculty of Law's admission committee to consider the fact that you have passed the bar exam in the United States and are called to the bar, and in lieu of providing proof of English language proficiency. If your request is reviewed by the committee and approved, then we will seek exemption on your behalf to the school, to the School of Graduate Studies. If it's not approved, your admission won't be denied, but we will request you to provide English language proficiency exam, and we'll give you ample time to complete that exam and send us the results. So hopefully that helps answer. Okay, moving ahead.
Okay, so now discussing a little bit of the tuition and fees, because I know that's a big concern for a lot of the applicants. We have everything listed on our website, so you can see the full breakdown when you go into the fees page. However, here's a snapshot of what the tuition fee looks like for domestic students and for international students. The total bold amount that you see there, it will be including both tuition fee and exhilarating fees. So for domestic students, we're looking at $35,808.48. For international student, the total tuition fee plus exhilarating fees and health insurance fees, we're looking at $84,248. Again, you could refer to the website. We do have the full breakdown. If you're also looking for financial aid options, we do have that information, because I know someone asked me before in the chat. So please just check on the website and let us know if you have any additional questions, okay? Now, I know that there was also a question that we received regarding deadlines. So for the GPLM program, we process application in rounds. That means that we accept applications in specific rounds for each one of the concentrations. If you are looking to apply for the Canadian law concentration, we do have 3 rounds for this year. So if you wish to be considered for this concentration, make sure that you do apply within those 3 rounds. The first round is the one that we're working now. The deadline will be November 3rd, and the decisions will be released by December 12th. So if you wish to be considered at an earlier stage, you have to submit your application by November 3rd, and then your decision will be released by the committee, and you'll be notified via email by December 12th. Then we also have the round 2, which will be the deadline February 23rd, and the decision will be released by March 31st of next year. And the final round for Canadian law concentration, the deadline is May 11th, with decisions being released on or before June 12th. So again, for the Canadian law concentration, we only have those 3 rounds. However, for business law and innovation law and technology, we are working with 4 rounds in total. So the first 3 rounds are the same deadlines. We are currently working the first round with the same deadline and the same decision week. However, if you are looking to apply for a later round, let's say the 4th and final round, the deadline will be July 13th with decisions on a rolling basis. So that means once we process applications, the committee reaches a decision, we'll be releasing them as it comes. We do encourage students to apply at earlier rounds if you have all your documents ready, if you have gathered all of your requirements, if you have already worked on your application account in your application form. We do allocate specific number of seats for each one of the rounds per concentration. So we do encourage you to apply for earlier rounds if you do have all the documents ready. Also, if you're an international student, because it takes a little bit of a time for your immigration documents to be processed, we do recommend you to apply within the rounds 1 or 2. And I'm sorry, were you going to add something?
I was just going to say there is a question in the chat about whether applying early gets some sort of, advantage. The answer in short is no. The admission requirements are the same, but as Bianca mentioned, the seats in the program do diminish the later in the admissions process we go. And so your application is always considered on its own merit, but against the applicant pool submitted for that round. So if you're applying in round 1, your application will be considered against round 1 applicants. If you're applying in round 2, it will be considered against round 2 applicants and anyone who has already been admitted to the program, just kind of for the overall class profile composition. Meeting minimum admission requirements is, of course, always encouraged, but in Canadian law concentration, we find that our students tend to exceed the minimum admission requirements as far as the academics go. On the business law and innovation law and technology, it is more on the years of experience that they tend to exceed the minimum requirement. So the short answer is no, you don't get any special advantage, but we do encourage you to apply early, because let's say if you have chosen to wait until the final round and there are only 5 spots remain, but 20 people choose to apply, it will be a much fiercer competition for those remaining 5 spots. I hope that answers your question, Janvi. Another great question, do we carry forward waitlisted applicants from first round to next round? Yes, so if you apply for any given round, provided it's not the final round, and your application is reviewed, there could be a possibility of 3 outcomes. Admission, offer of admission, which is the best outcome. Refusal of admission, which means your application unfortunately isn't competitive. And a waitlist. Waitlist means your application overall has good merit, but it's just missing slightly the mark against the applicants that have submitted their applications for this round. In that case, we will communicate with all waitlisted applicants and ask them if they wish to be considered for the second round. Some of them will say yes, some of them may say no if they're entertaining other offers. And those that say yes, we will carry forward and we'll review them at the next round when the decision, when after the deadline of the second round, and we'll communicate the admission decision on the decision day of the second round. Okay, there are a couple of other questions. I know we're over time. Why don't we talk about next steps, and then we'll see if we have any remaining time for those questions.
Yes. Okay, so I know again we have a lot of questions regarding applications and documents and requirements. We do have a application prep clinic workshop happening on October 8th, exactly 2 weeks from now. If you wish to learn more about the application process and discuss any of the documents that you might need for admission purposes, please register to attend this workshop. Again, it will be on October 8th. So you could just go to the GPLM website, upcoming events, and register online. You can also reach out to the admissions.gplm@utoronto.ca with any questions or concerns you might have. We'll be happy to schedule a call with you to discuss any of your concerns. But as I've mentioned, we are now working on and accepting applications for the fall 2026. The first round deadline will be November 3rd, so we are already accepting applications for that round. You could also sign up for our newsletters to stay informed about upcoming events or workshops or anything else happening within the GPLM program or the Faculty of Law. And again, if you wish to apply, you could, the entire application is processed online. So the first step will be for you to create an account in the School of Graduate Studies application system. Once you create your account, you choose Faculty of Law, full-time, and then the GPLM Global Professional Masters of Law program, so you can get started with your application form. But I hope to see a lot of you in our application prep clinic, and then I will be there to help you with the application process or any other questions that you might have. And I think we have, do you have some time, Anna, to go over the remaining questions on our chat?
Yes, I've been answering them. I've been typing the answers, but yet there are some remaining questions. I know I've answered some of the more specific admission questions already. a question we have is how many spots are allotted to each round of applications for Canadian common law? It's a great question. I don't think it's a question we'll be able to answer to give you a specific number because it depends on how many applications we receive in any given round, how many offers have already been issued. So it's a moving, I would say, number that fluctuates. In total, we admit approximately 100 students to the GPLLM program each year, and we receive approximately 300 applications to the Canadian common law concentration, so the Canadian law in a global context concentration. So the ratio is about 1 to 3, one spot for every 3 applicants. In some years, it could be higher, but this is what roughly we've observed this past admission cycle.
We have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Bianca.
Yes, so someone asked, what happened if my application is missing something, for example, the English test? So how the application process works is you do create your account, you answer the questions, and you submit the application. After submitting the application, you'll be prompted to complete 2 things. First, pay the application fee payment of $130, and the second fee will be to upload all of your documents. If your documents are not fully uploaded, as much as you've paid the application fee and as much as you submitted the application itself, the admissions committee won't be able to start the reviewing process. So this means your transcripts, your personal statement, your both letters of recommendation. If you happen to need to provide English proficiency tests, all of those documents needs to be submitted, provided to us in order for us to start the reviewing process. Otherwise, we won't be able to assess your application. So if that's the case, please always double check. There's a check mark that shows you all the documents that have been received. If there's anything missing, we can let you know as well. But keep in mind that as much as your application is submitted and paid, unless all the documents are in, you won't be able to get a decision on your application. So I hope this answers your questions.
Perfect. I think that was the final question. I would like to thank all of participants for joining, and Bianca, I'd like to thank you. Thank you so much for spending this hour and almost 15 minutes with us, and for your interest in the GPLLM program and the University of Toronto.